All right. Welcome to the Rich CELENZA Show. WTF are you talking about? So today I want to get into why I personally think men and women cheat. This is just my own theory. I have a program out there called Mastering Self-Confidence. The blueprint on how to find the woman or women of your dreams, even if you've been through a bad breakup or divorce. So this kind of comes up a lot, obviously cheating. And I go through it in my program extensively, I guess to a certain degree. But in this case, I just want to add it to my podcast because I just have some theories on this. And you're going to probably disagree with some, maybe agree with others. I think if you're a guy, you may agree more than maybe than if you're a woman. I don't know. I don't give a fuck either way. So I have a theory regarding why I think a lot of men cheat. And one is, I always say we're hunters. For the most part, I think most men are hunters. And wait a minute, I'm on the expressway actually driving from OKC to Kansas City. And I'm sorry if the audio isn't perfect, but a lot of times I just don't have time to do the podcast. And when I do have time, or when I have the right time, which I believe is in the car when I can stay focused without any interruptions. So this is the perfect time. I'm sorry if the audio isn't perfect. Anyways, so men are hunters, in my opinion, obviously in our past. And I'm not going to always, when I say certain things, that doesn't mean I believe every single man in the world's a hunter. Obviously, some hunt more than others, or some are better hunters, whatever you want to call us, or whatever you want to call this. It's I just believe overall, men, for the most part, hunt. And one of the things they hunt, besides, even in this day and age, they're not hunting food in this day and age. I do think there's a form of hunting, and one of those things is women, even subconsciously, they don't even realize it. So I don't care if they're married, singled, engaged, or whatever. They call it a wandering eye, whatever. If beautiful women come near them, I think I don't know if it's your endorphins. I don't know if it's just a natural instinctive thing. Men want to look at beautiful women. But for the most part, I don't see a lot of men around a lot of beautiful women. I've been fortunate to be raised in a nightclub business with my old man. I went into the modeling industry a little bit when I was younger. Then I went into the film industry. And then I've been involved with retail and, put it bluntly, around thousands of beautiful women. And I've been around a ton of dudes, too, around all different types of women as well. So, and I've lived in a lot of different places in the United States, on both coasts. I've lived in the Midwest. I spent so much time on the East Coast, so I spent a ton of time in Canada, even Italy a little bit. So I'm not going to sit here and say I'm an expert on any level regarding this, but I think for the most part, a lot of men cheat because one is, like I said, they're hunters, and two is what happens, I think, with a lot of men, and this is for the most part, men that are in relationships. That doesn't mean they're married or whatever the case may be. It could be they're engaged, they're separated, I don't give a shit. But years and years ago when I was younger, there was this guy I knew that started to travel, and he was married at a young age, and he said something extremely funny to me, and it kind of struck a chord with me, and I think there was a lot of honesty in what he said, but people don't want to be honest. In this regard, this is for men and women. A lot of things I'm saying, I don't mean just men feel this way, all right? So he told me, if he ever got caught cheating on his wife, that it would have to be with a much more beautiful woman, a smarter woman, basically a sexier woman. Because if he got caught, when she saw what he cheated, who he cheated with, she'd understand it, right? And I know that sounds horrible or whatever, but if you sometimes think about the way people think, I think there's some honesty and truth to that with men, where if they're with someone, and I think it's women too, if someone does come along that is hypothetically better looking, wealthier, smarter, more attractive, again, I'm not saying people are going to always cheat. That's ridiculous. But I think a lot of times that's basically what happens, and that's kind of obvious. Or they'll at least kind of test the waters. But there's a funny saying, I think Chris Rock said it, a man can only run so far until he pulls a hamstring regarding a woman that's attracted to him. So what happens, though, a lot of times with men, and my point being is when he said, I'll never cheat with another woman that's not as attractive or smart or whatever, it's kind of a joke. But the truth is, when men are always hunting, like I said, but even when they're not hunting, if a woman now flips it and becomes the hunter or the pursuer, that's where things, I think, get very confusing for men. And they don't want to be honest about it because, just like I said, a lot of men can only run so far until they pull that hamstring or they end up cheating or doing something they regret. Because if you do find yourself in a position where there is a woman that is extremely attractive, or someone you're attracted to, or just whatever the case may be, that keeps pursuing you, a lot of men, for the most part, will have a hard time saying no, right? They just will. I don't know why, they will. I think one is they're not used to being pursued. Now, if you're a celebrity, an athlete, extremely wealthy, maybe, obviously extremely, handsome, I'm talking about men, and then women too. On the other, women are just used to being pursued. It's a different dynamic in that case. But when a man, an average man, let's just say, or less than average man, starts getting pursued by a woman, and I think it's very hard for them to say no, or at least, again, test something. That doesn't mean that they're going to have sex necessarily. Maybe go to lunch, maybe go to dinner. I don't know what's going to happen. That's up to them too. So that's one of my theories. The other theory too is with men is, again, the person pursuing them, say a woman is pursuing them, is she going to offer things that whoever he's with isn't offering? So that's kind of obvious too. So there's a lot of things in relationships, I think, men and women, that they long for. Either they don't tell the other person, or they tell the other person and they still don't do it. And that could be sexual, that could be financial, it could be a lot of things. If someone comes along and is willing to fill that void, that doesn't mean they're going to fill every void, obviously. So if you're in a relationship, hypothetically, and you're with a beautiful woman, or you're with somebody you love, or you're married, engaged, whatever, and she's just not as sexually as active if you want to be, or she doesn't do certain things that you like her to do behavior-wise, and this other person comes along and starts offering these things, or a certain amount of those things, most likely the guy, again, is going to test the water, I believe. And I think, again, women as well. I'm going to throw that into that category, because a lot of women are with men that do not satisfy them on many different levels, especially emotionally. If someone comes along, again, and starts filling that void, or they think can fill part of that void, and I think this is also where people get caught up in dual relationships, is because they're getting out of one person a lot of things that they like, and then the other person, they're getting a lot of things they like as well, and that's kind of where they get caught cheating for years, or they are a serial cheater, because a lot of times they are with somebody who they married or they have children with that they love very much, but they're not getting all these things fulfilled that they want fulfilled, so they will go out and find it somewhere else. That doesn't necessarily mean they want to lose what they have, right? I mean, that's just the honest truth. Sometimes, obviously, they just check out, and then they're just looking for someone else, man and women, let's face it for what it is, but you just don't have the balls to break up the relationship. And what did I think Johnny Depp said too? A lot of guys or women that get caught up in relationships saying, oh, I think I'm in love with two women, or a woman saying I'm in love with two men. The truth is, if you're getting everything out of the one you're with, most likely you don't need a second. Now, that doesn't mean you don't want to be with two women at the same time. That's a whole different thing. Or maybe some guys just like to date two women, or three, or whatever. I'm talking about somebody who wants to be in a serious kind of relationship with just one type of woman, or man, if you're a woman. Now, this is where I find it very interesting, is where men are usually lying when they get caught cheating. And I think women do this as well. Again, not all. Let's not get nuts and fucking start categorizing everybody. I just see a majority. Again, men get caught cheating, or for the most part, a lot of men get caught doing a lot of things they shouldn't have done. They will say, I didn't really want to do it. I didn't mean to do it. I don't know what I was thinking. I was out of my mind. I don't care if you use drugs. Alcohol is an excuse. But most likely, you did what you did because you wanted to fucking do it. Man up. Just say that. You will be so much better off, and especially in politics and all these other people, the bullshit, the tangled weave that we keep going into, or deny and deny and deny. I'm going to tell you something in this day and age. You're fucked, most likely. All right? There's too many ways of you getting busted. Okay? There's obviously, this isn't the 70s and 80s where, you know what I mean? the odds of you getting caught even in the 90s, early 2000s was far and few between. Maybe you could go fuck around with anybody you wanted or do whatever you want to do. Who's going to really find out? Now with social media, with people with cameras everywhere, with phones, you're texting, you're on Facebook, you're on Instagram. I don't care if you're on Twitter. I don't care where you're LinkedIn messaging people. There's all these different avenues. If you watch any of these shows like Dateline, Nightline, all of them, when somebody gets obviously charged with a murder, they go right to all their social media, and all their texting and all their phone calls, and they're following you where you're at on your phone. You're fucked. So, put that aside. Back to men just learning to man up. Put it this way, and I say this all the time, even to my friends who are gaining weight even, I'll just start it from a slow point saying, man, I wish I didn't, eat junk food all the time. I wish I didn't eat this. I wish I didn't drink as much. No, you enjoy doing that. You don't drink a six-pack or a case every night of beer because you don't like it. No one's got a gun to your head. You don't pull in a drive-thru at McDonald's, Burger King, Taco Bell all the time because you don't like it. If you didn't like it, you wouldn't eat it. Right? And some people even use the excuse, well, I can't afford this or I can't afford that. The bottom line is you like it. Same with if you cheated on your, or in a relationship, obviously. And this mainly goes, obviously, we're talking about people in relationships, okay? So you cheated and you're either about to get caught or you're getting caught and you're like, I can't believe I did this, but I really didn't want to. I just kind of got talked into it, or I just got caught up in the moment. It's all bullshit, my friend. You instinctively wanted to do that. Again, it takes a lot of work to go out and cheat, okay? Usually there's a conversation going. You're usually, I don't care if you even randomly travel and you meet someone in a bar, you're buying drinks, you're socializing, you end up in a hotel room, hopefully you get a condom, you fuck around, whatever the case may be. But let's take it locally. You usually meet someone, it could be at the workplace, at the gym, I don't know where. But you start conversations, most likely you're going to either be messaging each other on either through text, I don't know if it's Facebook, I don't care where it is. You start going back and forth. At any moment, you can just nip it in the bud and say, listen, I'm sorry, I'm not interested. I'm already with someone, right? No, you're interested. You're interested in the excitement aspect of it. You're interested because you're most likely, a lot of times, like a lot of people, they don't admit, you're bored. You're sick of kind of fucking around with the same person you've been fucking around with a long time, right? I mean, and believe me, the woman that you're with, if you're a dude, feels a lot of the same way you do. Believe me, she's probably sick of looking at your face. So don't think it's just you. You're just like, oh, I'm sick of her, right? She's most likely sick of you, I can assure you, most likely. Not always, but a lot of it. But anyways, you went, I don't know if you get a hotel room, you go to her place, she comes here, so whatever you do, you fuck around. Usually you're going to fuck around more than once. You fuck around once that night, either you dip, you do it again, whatever the case may be. But let's say it was a one-night stand, hypothetically, and it just didn't work out. Again, you're going to be like, man, I wish I didn't do that, right? Or I should have never done that, or all these type of things. The truth is, again, you wanted to do it. The faster people realize they're doing what they want to do, the better off they're going to be, because I think we just grew up in a society where we can blame each other for shit we're doing all the time, right? Or we act out, or my God, I didn't, and I've done it too. Even I used to get in a lot of fights. I used to call it going black. Then I realized I'm getting in a lot of fights because my behavior sucks. I'm the one with anger issues, not everyone else. I wanted to blame everybody else in my life. They're a jagoff. They're this. They said this about me. This one's doing this. This one needs a crack. This one, that, this. All this stupid nonsense. Again, I was the one who wanted to fight, most likely. I liked fighting, right? I didn't care if I won or lost. I liked getting beatings or giving them. I hope I said that right. Either way, as long as I was in the fight, I think I loved the excitement of it. I loved the adrenaline. I loved the crowd if there were people there. I loved all these different things. I didn't like being hurt that much, but actually being hurt, my hands, my head, for the next few days, all these things, I kind of liked that feeling. It kind of gave me a rush. But again, I had to accept my behavior, and I think most men don't want to accept their behavior again, because if I said to a dude, hey, there's a dude over there, you want to go, say you're straight, you want to go fuck around with him? He'd be like, are you out of your fucking mind? Right? And I don't care if it was a gay dude. Hey, you want to fuck around with a straight guy? He'd be like, or a woman, he'd be like, are you out of your fucking mind? You don't make those mistakes because you know cut and dry, that's something I don't want. Right? And you're not willing to put up with anything less. But with women, or with certain things, you'll accept excuses. Stop using excuses, okay? That's the number one thing I really try to teach in my Mastering Self-Confidence program. Not to get into that, is really start figuring out who you are and start understanding your behavior, your patterns, because you are the only one living your life, right? No one can control you for the most part. We don't live in a country where if you do this, you get your head cut off, or someone's got a gun to your head telling you better do this or that or the other thing. So take responsibility for what you do, who you are, and truthfully, I think a lot of times with men, when it comes to women again, is a lot of men, when they're younger, I think, they get rejected a lot, right? And they may even go through their college years. Some are jocks, some are popular, some are not. Regardless, I think a lot of men don't have a lot of opportunities with a lot of women, especially beautiful women or intelligent women a lot of times when they're younger. A lot of them get wrapped up, and this goes for women too, to a certain degree, but women, I think a lot of times get pursued, obviously, way more than men, especially if they're attractive. They don't deal with the rejection component. They don't understand that really to the level of what men go through, especially if you're a geeky dude or you're just kind of introverted or you don't have that outgoing personality. It's hard. But as men get into their 30s, I really think they get better looking, truthfully. I think younger women, attractive women, start to become more attracted to an older man. I think now more than ever because of conversations. I think a lot of younger guys are really addicted to their phones. So are women. But a lot of younger guys, I think, really are caught up with video games. They don't look a lot of women in the eyes, where if you're catching guys that are a little older, they can carry themselves, I think, just a little differently in this day and age, and I think that helps. But even in their guys in their 30s and 40s, I think they get in a different financial situation too, a little more secure. And I think they just become a little more confident in who they are and kind of hold their own a little more. And I think now things start to balance out a little bit. It's not just when you were younger, girls looking at guys, they only wanted to be with cute guys, or they only wanted a fit guy, or they only wanted this type of guy, or all these different things. So what happens, I think, as men get older, they are either in relationships and women that they're kind of bored with after a certain amount of time, especially if you're in your mid-20s and you got married, and you have all these things I always said that you look forward to getting excited, right? So you get in a relationship with a woman, say in your mid-20s, whatever, I don't know, maybe you're out of college, whatever, mid-20s, but you're looking forward to getting engaged, so you get engaged, and that's exciting for a year, whatever, 2 maybe, I don't know, and then you're looking forward to the wedding, you have the wedding, honeymoon. Then most likely you're going to be thinking about children. If you have one, a girl, you want a boy. If you want a boy, you want a girl. If you have one child, a lot of times you feel like you can't be an only child. You got to have another kid. Then you're looking at homes. Then you're looking at different types of cars because now you have a family and all these things are going on for like a 10, 15 year period, I think. It's busy. Always something to kind of look forward to, right? But then I think once your kids start to go to school, especially when they kind of hit junior high or pre-junior high, they don't depend on you as much. And a lot of parents I know wrap their lives up around their kids. And each kid brings a different dynamic to the relationship, obviously, right? But I think what happens, though, once your kids start to separate from you a little bit, start having their friends and their life a little bit, you two are back kind of stuck with one another, and you're kind of lost because you've wrapped a lot of your lifestyle around your kids. Now it's just you two. Now you're back to you two, right? You've been together a long time. What's going to make things interesting now? Most likely you just end up talking about your kids, even if you're not with your kids. Or you've kind of wrapped up your relationships a lot of times. You end up hanging out with parents of your kids, hanging out with other kids, and then you become friends with their parents, and that's how this all intertwines. So now you're with people that basically have the same interests as far as your kids. It could be sports, it could be academics, whatever it is. I don't know what the fuck it is. But back to kids. Your life, I think, or when people, I think, start to fade away or start having problems in relationships that I've seen and I've even gone through myself, is in those areas where it becomes boring again. And I hate to say that. If you're going to be in a relationship, you need to stay fresh, right? And especially if a guy now is pretty successful, or he either has his own company or he's traveling a lot, or all these different things going on in this relationship. And it could be your wife actually doing those things as well, I should say, or whoever you're with. You don't even have to be married to have children. But my point being is, this is where I start seeing the cheating component to a certain degree, and it's getting stronger, where you'd think actually you're more comfortable and you kind of went through the hard times, right? You think, you kind of always looked at your life saying, hey, a lot of people, not everyone, hey, I want to get married, I eventually want to have kids, I want to get, the house with the picket fence, we get the nice cars, my kids are living a good life, all these things, and you kind of get there, and then what else do you have to do? You're kind of stuck on stop. Now what's the next move? And a lot of people are tired too. You're middle-aged. What do you want to start another company? A lot of people don't. They're pretty secure in their job. They don't want to risk a lot at that point in time. Their kids, you got to get ready for either high school they're getting ready for, which you may be sending to private high schools, or college. You got that expense coming up. So you have some stress as far as that goes. And most of us have a lot of bills too while we're married, no matter what. You most likely a lot of times have a mortgage, or you're paying rent, car payments, blah, blah, blah. But cheating again, I think becomes very strong there. And I think one of the reasons is, just like I said, I think it becomes boredom. When you're first with a woman, obviously is the most exciting time, especially sexually. You're fucking around all the time, right? If you're not, then you're not. I'm not saying, but if you are, if you're active and you're horny, whatever the hell you want to be, and you find somebody at the beginning, it's always going to be fresh, usually interesting, and it's still going to be usually fresh while you're dating, and then when you're engaged, it's exciting. You get married, your honeymoon, like I said, you keep going. It's still a great time. You're going, but after year after year after year, and I'd hate to say it becomes like it's the same meal, if you are the same restaurant, I should say, that you keep going to. That's hard, especially living as long as we live. I think a lot of men, on the average, years ago, and women, a lot of women died having children, obviously at childbirth. A lot of men died in their 30s and 40s, I think. It was very seldom, I think, they would live to 50 years old. I'm even talking like a couple hundred years ago. What were they dying at, 40 on the average? Now, if we're going to live to 80, 90 years old, and people are going to be married 40, 50, 60 years in this day and age, with having access to so many people, which we have more than ever. Because the last 10 years, let's face it, with social media, we became somebody who really, if you were communicating with different people, it was really, for the most part, local, right? Unless you traveled. But it was local. It was where you met people, where you worked, where you went to school, through other family members, friends. Now, not only can you meet thousands of different people from all over, you don't even have to know other people to know them. You can also go on dating websites. There's so many different ways to find different people, and also what's interesting is finding people that have the same interests you have, which before was kind of restricted. So if you were local, hypothetically, and say you moved there from LA, and I say I'm from Chicago, and somebody moved there from LA, and you really never dug the people in Chicago, you could still, communicate now with people in LA, like or just. There's just so many different opportunities to meet different people, or just just finding people that have the same thing in common with you, from sports to academics to, I don't care if it's chess, I don't care if it's fantasy football. You're finding, especially women, a lot of times you may locally not have the type of woman that you're looking for. If you're in an area where, say, fitness isn't that popular, but you love to be fit, you can go online and find tons of women that are in fitness. Even if you love models, hypothetically, you like beautiful women, before, unless you were in New York, Chicago, LA, at least in the United States, maybe Toronto, certain areas, you're not going to be able to meet those type of girls, right? But now you can go online and meet those type of girls, even locally. They may not be a huge model or something famous, but you can meet women like that. So I think this component is just another thing to actually kind of fuel the fire, I guess you could say, regarding cheating. And again, I'm not saying, hopefully you're not getting to the point where I'm condoning cheating. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying, in this day and age, people really have to acknowledge that I believe most people eventually will be cheated on, and most people already were cheated on. And if you don't believe you've been cheated on, most likely you're a fool. But most, depending again on your age, but if you dated a lot of different types of women, and you were single for a certain amount of time, especially through your teens and 20s and 30s, and you think some of the women you were with weren't with other men at different times, you're kind of an idiot, because I could assure you that's not the case. And most likely, you may have even been with other women. I say that in my program all the time. Men are always the first ones to kind of condemn women when they get caught cheating on, or want to play a victim role when, for the most part, I know for a fact, I think most men have cheated one time or another, or have done things that they may regret a little bit. And that's just the truth. The truth is the truth. And I think with men, as much as we're all kind of different, I get the alpha and the beta, whatever, all these different things that, we categorize men. Back to being a hunter. If you're straight, the one thing that most men like is women, okay? And I also think, back to the hunter thing, a lot of men like to be in control and have some type of power to be able to get women, or know that women are interested in them. They also like, I think, to kind of be sexy, or somebody that women want to really, they're just attracted to them. And I don't care if you're a geeky guy that loves to play video games, or you love comic book heroes, or if you're a jock, or if you're a lawyer, or you're a, a brainiac, all those different components. I think if you watch that show like The Big Bang Theory, it kind of gives you like an example of how we're all kind of intertwined. It doesn't matter. Men are men, right? The truth, the reality is. And I'm basically speaking for straight men. I don't know, what homosexuality or any of that, what they go through. But when it comes to straight men, is we all, we love women. One of the things and I don't know if it's, obviously it is instinctively, that we, women is a big part of our identity, right? No matter what anyone says, it's a part of our status. And a lot of men will be like, nah, I don't really care that much for this or that. I can assure you, if a woman, very attractive, smart, beautiful, pursues you, you will be very excited for the most part. If you're not, you're not. But I can't see you not being, right? I just think a lot of young guys, especially, they don't get the opportunities. They don't put themselves in the right place, right time. They kind of neglect that instinct, and they kind of jump to porn, right? Porn's become very easy for a lot of guys, and one of the reasons porn is probably the most visited place on the internet is because of, and women go there too, obviously it's huge, it's billions of women go there too, but for the most part I think men really love porn because it's easy access, right? And obviously they want to see different types of women having sex. I think a lot of men wish they were the ones having sex with different women, and that's another thing I think guys go through. I think they're programmed either in religion or just in their belief system from their parents that you got to find the right one real quick. You shouldn't date a lot of women. You can catch diseases, or you can get them pregnant, or then you're going to look like a male slut or a whore. Some parents or some other people may look at it differently and say, look at the stud, or look at it like look, he's a player, or whatever the case may be too. But my thing really is, if you like a lot of different women, or you want to be with different women, all these things, do not get in a serious relationship. You got to understand, you probably have a lot of things you want to get through. It could even be with two women at the same time. It could be different types of ethnic women you want to be with. And the more you neglect that and pretend that doesn't exist, the more problems I think you're going to eventually have in the future. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to go outside having one-night stands with randoms. That's the last thing I ever tell anybody to do. My whole thing's about having relationships, building relationships and friendships with women, and then figuring out if it's the right person to sleep with, because I don't trust most women, and I don't, that's just me. But if you have these instincts, you might definitely want to take your time and start dating different types of women. Don't get caught up in, if you like I said, if you like a certain type of woman, it could be, if you're white, you like a black woman, a Hispanic woman, a Chinese woman. If your parents or you were programmed not to be with these type of women, but you instinctively, or you want to be, you better do it. I'm going to tell you right now. I don't, especially in our country, the United States, do what you feel is best, right? Go with who you feel you belong with. Don't let anybody else dictate to you who you should be with. I think you're just setting yourself up again for failure, and you may end up with someone you don't want to be with. Then you're maybe even having children with them, and then cheating on them, and the whole fucking fiasco again. Take responsibility for who you want to be with, and if you want to do that privately, do that as well. Maybe that's what you got to do. Again, it's almost like you need to test certain things to see if they work. As much as people will be like, what are you talking about? Testing different, that's a human being. You don't just, test an Asian woman or, test, an African American woman. You don't test. Yeah, you kind of do. You got to see if it works for you. And just because one type of woman didn't work for you, that doesn't mean they're all like that. That's preposterous. You got to go with who you're attracted to. Most dudes I know are always like, well, I kind of like this girl, but I'm afraid. Or I like, I want to go hang out with these type of women. And it could be anything. It could be strippers. I go through all different things in my program. I know tons of dudes are attracted to strippers. But how you go about getting a stripper is a whole different thing. You'd have to check out my program. I get into that. It could be even porn stars. Some dudes are into it. It's not my angle, but if that's what you're into, just be very careful. You want to protect yourself. But if you're neglecting all these things that you want to do or be with, then you're going to have problems, I believe. That's just, again, why I think men end up cheating. Okay? So, we could go on this subject forever. These are just some of the things I go over actually with my program. I'm not here on my podcast to pitch my entire program, but if you dig some of this stuff, I get into it much more in depth in my program. But listen, man, if you cheat and you get caught, fucking man up, right? If you are in a relationship and you start seeing yourself wanting to be with other women, you should probably have a discussion with who you're with. It's only fair. You wouldn't want that person doing that to you. And here's the deal too, if you did cheat, you're carrying that baggage around with you. And it's affecting you, and I know that happens with a lot of guys I know, especially that are religious, supposedly. They cheat. So you either have two options. You just need to shut the fuck up or discuss it with who you cheated on and just come clean with it, right? Those are your two options in life. Deal with them either way, okay? Don't let it ruin your life. And here's the thing, even though you cheated or someone cheated on you, if you're 30 years old, I'm going to tell you right now, 10 years from now, 5 years from now, it may still affect you, but here's the thing, don't let it destroy you. That's just a situation that happened, right? You may have been the one who cheated and made a mistake, but in 10 years, your life is going to change in so many different ways, and other things are going to probably be so much more important at that point in time, right, than going back 10 years. It's kind of like I say a bad meal a lot of times to a certain degree. It's much more serious than a bad meal. But if you went and ate McDonald's, you don't want to eat junk food all the time, but if you went and ate junk food, hypothetically McDonald's, and you didn't want to eat it, it's like carrying something around month after month. You're going, God, I can't believe I went and ate McDonald's, or I went and did this. And it could be anything. It could be getting a DUI. It could be getting in a fight or saying something you regret. Try to let that shit go. You're not perfect, man. Either's the one you're with. The one you're with may cheat. She may fall out of love with you. She may leave you. I can assure you, most likely, you are a fucking asshole at times. You may have been doing a lot of things that ruined this relationship. But then again, you may have been great. You may have been too good for her, so she may have left you because you're actually too good. Who knows what it is? It could be good or bad. But you have to move on, right? And I think what gets confusing in relationships, it's amazing, is how much strength sex has, or cheating. As people get older, a lot of them don't even have sex that often. They'll have it once a week, twice a week, a few times a month. But if you cheat on one another, the relationship has to end, and that's it. That's the backbreaker. You could treat each other like shit. You could steal money from each other. You lie to each other. You can embezzle from each other. You could be manipulating each other. Who knows? All these other things. You could become an alcoholic, a drug addict. Who knows what you're doing? That you'll still stay in the relationship, but God forbid one or the other cheats, right? Think about it. So that's just something to think about. I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but a lot of times we put so much emphasis on sex, and it's probably the smallest component of most people's relationships. When you're younger, it's a huge component, but as you get older, really? You know what I mean? So just something to think about. And if you do, if you're in a relationship, and you may just separate, or you may just have an open relationship. If you feel that way, talk about it, man. Don't pretend it doesn't exist. Again, that doesn't mean you have to act out on it. A lot of times, some things you may want to do, she may want to do too. You may feel a certain way, so does she. She just doesn't have the balls, and neither do you. So before you start doing things you regret and hurting one another, especially, here's the thing with cheating that I realize too with a lot of relationships, especially married couples. So one cheats, and either the relationship starts, it ends, and especially if you have kids, your kids eventually find out who cheated, right? A lot of times they will be very upset what you did to the other person. It could be like husband, their mom or dad, whoever did it to one another. But then a lot of times I realized that either the other person, say guy and girl, the guy cheats and the mother looks like the victim. That's fine. But then sometimes you find out the mother in her past was cheating as well, and kind of, never got exposed, or vice versa. The woman cheated, the guy looks like the victim, but for a long time the guy was cheating. And it's ridiculous either way to play all these games or blame each other after, if someone does get caught cheating, and then you start to say, well, you didn't do this for me, that's why I had to cheat, or you were doing this and this and this and this. Start, blaming somebody for the reason why they cheated, which is absolutely fucking ridiculous. Man up or woman up, just, buckle down. And if you're with somebody, you want a serious relationship, you do obviously find out they're cheating on you, right? Then you go out and cheat to retaliate. If that's what you want to do, you can do it, obviously. But I think you're better off just confronting that person and saying, hey, obviously you cheated. I think our relationship should end. And I'm going to obviously go with other people. I don't think hurting one another, as far as cheating on one another, like tit for tat, it's kind of ridiculous. Grow up. And like I told you before, you've probably been cheated on most likely, or you've cheated on somebody, considering there's billions of people out there and hundreds of millions of people cheat all the time. Don't think it's not going to happen to you, or it will never happen to you. And also don't think you'll never do it, because life is very long. And a lot of times you may find yourself in the right place at the wrong time and do the wrong thing. Or I hope that is, the right place. Actually, the right place, the right time, and then you do the wrong thing. There's a bunch of different ways to say that, but doing the wrong thing is a lot of times a very bad result. And most of the time you're doing something wrong, you're doing it, right? You just know it. But sometimes that excites you, and you just have to realize that's what you're looking for. Stop denying it. But try not, like I said, everybody has different instincts, especially with women. Back to status, a lot of guys just like to be with different women, regardless if they're married or not. I get it. Just be very careful you don't realize sometimes the ones you're hurting, or the domino effect that could lead to, obviously with women or men making each other jealous or pissing somebody off. Again, you may push somebody to the point where they do something very drastic, which could be murdering somebody, hurting somebody, who knows what they can do, and you regret it. So try really to control that. Like I said, if you're in a position and you're thinking about cheating or ending your relationship, just discuss these things. And no matter what, when a relationship ends, for the most part, someone always is going to be hurt more than the other. Very seldom do two people come together and go, you know what, I'm really not in love with you anymore, or I'm interested in other people. You're not going to believe it. So am I. Wonderful. Let's just kind of go our separate ways, right? No, it doesn't work that way. And I know somebody who one time said something when he was in a relationship, and he wanted to end the relationship. He didn't have any kids or any of these things. And he said, I just kept staying in this relationship because I didn't want to see her cry or hurt her feelings, right? Which makes sense. But think about it. Why would somebody be in a position where, they're hurting themselves at the same time because they don't want to hurt somebody else, and they keep going on and on with it? That's not fair to you, right? Or if a woman's doing that too, like, I don't want to break his heart, because then who knows what it'll do. Well, you know what I mean? If you're miserable in a relationship, the best thing for you is to let that person know. It's a lot better than if you started having, dating other people or just cheating on him to fill certain voids. So I'm going to leave it at that. So again, thanks for listening to the Rich CELENZA Show. WTF are you talking about? I hope I didn't offend anyone. I usually do, one way or another. And that's the way it is with me. If you get a chance, check out my YouTube channel. I'm always posting crazy shit all over the country, places I visit. I try to give pointers on where to travel affordably. I post things about different hotels, restaurants, coffee houses, bars, malls, all different things, places I go to and visit, you may want to check out as well. So I'm going to leave it at that. Take care.